California Governor Gavin Newsom says the Democratic Party still has not figured out what went wrong in the 2024 election. I don't know what the party is. Those are the words of Newsom, who's thought to be a top contender for the 2028 presidential race. Newsom shared his views in an exclusive interview with The Hill's Amie Parnes, who joins us now. Hi, Amie. So Newsom says there's been no autopsy, but it is well known that Democrats underperformed with young people, Hispanics, black men, continue to bleed support in the white working class. What does Newsom want to know that we don't know already?
I think there needs to be, and he's talking about this, a really formal kind of investigation, if you will, of what went wrong, looking into the campaign, kicking the tires, looking at the engine, where did they go wrong? What did they miss? There's a lot more than the actual demographics, I think. There's messaging, there's the ground game. Democrats touted that they had strong fundraising numbers throughout the election, but in the end, it didn't help. I think he wants a more thorough autopsy of what happened, and he wants to obviously be included in it. I mean, this is a guy who has been a huge player within the Democratic Party, a huge governor of a big state. Wants to be in that discussion, and so far has not been, and that was pretty surprising to me.
Does he think there needs to be a purge of consultants, officials, maybe from like the Biden era? You know, reading your book, one of the big takeaways that I got from it was just the level of dysfunction inside the Biden camp and the conversations that weren't had about possibly having someone else on the ticket.
That was a huge takeaway, I think, for a lot of people reading the book. I think that people want to turn the page. They don't want these Obama era advisors and consultants anymore. They want new blood and fresh blood all around, from the consultant class to the candidates. And I think all of that is reflected in our book.
Newsom has this baggage of being the governor of California. It's often perceived as this lefty state. People think San Francisco, LA, problems with homelessness, crime. If he's ever going to be a viable presidential candidate, it would seem that he's going to have to figure out a way to blunt that criticism. Do you think that's what he's getting at when he talks about all the agriculture and hunting, forestry jobs that are in his state?
Yeah, I mean, I think he wants to, he talked about the flyover states, and he's saying, look, I mean, in my state, we have all of those things. And so don't count me out. Don't think that I am some progressive lefty, because I've actually had to deal with a lot of conservative issues as well, and conservative voters in my state. And I would assume that he would continue to play up that line in the coming months if he's looking at running. It's certainly kind of a cue that he wants to appeal to a broader swath of voters than these Hollywood Silicon Valley types.
Newsom has this podcast where he's been interviewing a bunch of right-wingers. It's not just right-wingers. I know you're going to be on here coming up soon to talk about, I assume, your book, which is Fight. It's about the 2024 election. Incredible read, must read for political junkies. But anyway, Steve Bannon, Michael Savage was on there. Those were some of his first guests. But then he got a little bit of criticism for not offering enough pushback against them. Has he given up on that kind of let's hear them out attitude? It's been all kind of anti-Trump guests since then.
No, I think, he wants to do everyone. And that was sort of his point to me, that he doesn't want to ignore the right. He wants to include them in conversation because he's saying, look, they did something right. They won this election. So why wouldn't we hear from them? And that is sort of an anomaly right now in the Democratic Party. I think people want to speak amongst themselves, but there are Democrats like Newsom who think that he needs to appeal to more voters and listen to people on both sides, to hear what they're saying, to hear, glean what strategies he might be able to get from these people who are speaking to him. And I think there's some people who think that's a smart approach, especially if he wants to move out of California and talk to voters in these swing states and start appealing to them. So I think he's trying to lay the groundwork for that kind of thing.
All right, we'll leave it at that. It'll be interesting to watch and see what happens with the California governor. Amie Parnes, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.